Hey guys, welcome back to the Girl Gone London channel. If you're new here, my name is Kaylin. I'm a dual UK and American citizen, and today I'm actually talking about the differences between France and the UK. Now, I have been to France multiple times on holiday. We've been in the summer, we've been in the winter for skiing. I've been to Paris, I've been to more rural parts of France, and I thought it would be interesting to compare the two cultures as an American looking in from the outside. Now, France is the closest country to the UK in continental Europe. It takes about 2 hours by train from London to Paris, and you can take the Eurotunnel over in about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, as well as ferries and things like that. So it's not far. You can see France from Dover on a clear day. And the history between the French and the English is interesting, sometimes tumultuous, and I would say stereotypically, perhaps the English, and I will switch to talking about the English versus the French now, instead of all the countries of the UK, but the English and the French, sometimes they get along, they have stereotypes about each other, and I think both are convinced that the others don't like them. Okay, let's jump into the video. Okay, so the first difference between England and France is the concept of language. Yes, I'm not talking about the fact that the French speak French and the English speak English. I'm talking about their attitudes towards their language. So if you look back in history, the French, they're much less accepting of what they would call, or what anyone would call, loan words into the language. So a loan word is basically when a language adopts another word from another language into their own language. So English is filled with loan words, whereas the French language is not. So typically, if there is a word for something that currently doesn't exist in French, not all the time, but oftentimes the French like to come up with their own word for that thing, whereas a language like English might just adopt the word from another language into their language. The French stereotypically are also very protective of the French language. Going to France is definitely one of the countries where it is most important to learn some French before you go, because they speak French, and when you're in their country, they would like, and it is more polite to speak at least some French too. Now, on the topic of learning French, I just wanted to give you an update on my French language learning experience, because as you may know from my other video, I have been embarking on language learning because France is the place that we visit the most from the UK as a family here. I decided it would be a really good idea to make sure that I learn at least conversational French, if not more. So I've been doing this with the help of Lingoda. Lingoda is an online language learning school, which basically offers live language learning classes in real time via Zoom. So it's not an app where you are going through and answering multiple choice questions. It is live, but you can do it from the comfort of your own home, which I love because I don't always love to leave the house. I feel like that's something I need to improve on, but 2020, 2021 has made me very comfortable in my home. So Lingoda offers Spanish, French, German, and actually if you're moving to the UK from another country, you can even take English classes or business English classes with them. You are going to get live instructors. You go into your account, you can see which classes are available. You can do it 24/7. All the time. You could be learning French 24 hours of a day if you wanted to. These instructors are real people teaching you in real time, and the classes are no more than 5 people, which I really appreciate because I don't like a ton of people in my language classes because I'm gonna make mistakes, which is absolutely fine, but I just prefer there to be fewer people, so 5 is a good cap for me. You can also do individual private one-to-one lessons if that's something that you're interested in. Now, if you think language learning like this is for you, and I'd really recommend you check it out, particularly if you are planning a European trip or planning to become an expat in the UK or in another European country, this is an amazing way to immerse yourself in the language before you go on your trip or before you actually move to the country. there is another Lingoda language sprint happening. So this is the May Lingoda language sprint. So let me explain what I mean by that. Basically, you can learn a language and get real live instruction completely for free. So in a Lingoda language sprint, you get all of your money back if you do 60 lessons in 2 months, whatever language you choose, or you can get 50% of your money back if you do 30 lessons within 2 months. You can also use my code, which I will put up here right now, for $25 off. And then if you do the required lessons, you get all the money back anyway, but it also would be the $25 off on top of like the 50% refund if you did the 50% challenge. So check out Lingoda in the description box below. Let me know if you have any questions. And now continuing on with the video. Okay, the next difference between France and the UK is the sheer size. France is a lot bigger than the UK, but also this means that France has a lot more rural areas. That does exist in the UK, but the French rural spots are very large. You can, particularly when you're driving, you drive and you drive and you drive and you keep driving and you keep driving for hours, and all you see are very, very tiny towns and villages. You can find rural areas in the UK, but they're never like too far of a driving distance from a major town or city, just because of how compact the UK is. Now, related to that, the next difference I came up with based on my experience in both countries is that France loves a straight road. So in the UK, there are a couple stretches of really straight roads, but in most of the country, it's not common. The roads are curved or winding. Not the case in France all the time. You can definitely be in areas similar to the US where you are just driving straight for quite a long time without turning, without bends, because it's bigger. And there's room. And why would you build a curved road when you could just build a straight road right on through? So if you're driving through France, be prepared for some very long, straight roads. Now, the next difference has to do with what they drink. So France is a wine culture. They're connoisseurs of wine. Wine is something that can be paired with many of their meals, and just socially, they are wine drinkers. In England, traditionally, they're going to be a beer culture. So it's not that people don't drink wine, and equally it's not that people in France don't drink beer. But if you think about the alcoholic drinks of choice, again, beer is much more popular in England. It's a beer culture. Think of a pub and fish and chips and kind of what pairs with that. Whereas in France, they are a wine culture. And obviously, we all know that the French do cheese and bread better than anyone else, but their attitude towards food is a little different than the UK. So as much as you might love some of your favorite UK, English, Scottish, whatever dishes, fish and chips, Scotch eggs, things like that, the French take their love of food to another level. Have you seen Ratatouille? Watch it if you haven't. France really takes the love of food, of cooking, of good food, of their national dishes. Like, they take it to another level. In England, like I said, there are going to be people who are foodies, but we're not a foodie culture, which I don't necessarily have a problem with, because America doesn't have a foodie culture either, but France definitely takes their love and enjoyment of food to the next level. I was also reading an anecdote from somebody who had moved to France to teach from England, and the kids were asking, like elementary school, primary age kids were asking about the types of cheese in British sandwiches, and the English person was like, I don't know what type of cheese it was just cheese. Whereas the French children were comparing and contrasting with each other what their types of cheeses were, what their favorite types of cheeses were. So they, from a very young age, are brought up to be foodies, to understand all the different types of things. Whereas in England, you just hand your kid a a pickle and cheese or whatever kind of sandwich, tomato and cheese, and they probably wouldn't know exactly what type of cheese or care. Now, another difference I've noticed is that in England, people tend to be more orderly and more organized. So in France, life seems to be, it's much more a culture of like, hey, we're just here to enjoy life, and whatever happens, happens. And if you take the metro in Paris, it can be a lot more chaos than the tube in the UK, in London. This also relates to like things like paperwork, and expats in France often say like things take a long time to get figured out because they are not an island, but they are on island time sometimes in how they go about organization and bureaucracy and things like that. I would say as a culture, the English like to be a lot more like organized, and things happen at certain times, and there's certain processes that you follow, and you get into the tube this way, and people are quite like, there's lots more an organized feeling about England as opposed to France, and that is part of the romanticism of France and why many people love France, but that is definitely a difference I've noticed. On that topic, did you know that many French places close for lunch for about 2 hours? So when we were skiing in France, we noticed that if we would go back at lunchtimes, the supermarkets and grocery stores and some shops would be closed for about 2 hours. This does not happen in the UK. Shops, maybe selling clothes, but shops, stores, they don't close for lunch. That is a very European thing, not a very British thing. So when you go to France, be prepared. Things might be closed for lunch. And so as an employee in France, amazing. As someone shopping in France, something that you should know around lunchtime. Again, if you go to somewhere like Paris, it's not necessarily the same as if you go to a town or village. Paris is very metropolitan, is a thriving major city, so you don't always see the same kind of, you do a little bit, but not the same kind of culture in Paris as in the rest of France. But definitely if you're traveling in other places in France, be prepared for things not to be open. And the final difference I wrote down between England and France is how you greet each other. It's very uncommon these days in the circles I run in England to kiss somebody hello. Occasionally you might get like a really close relative or someone from maybe an older generation. They don't do like a full-on kiss, but they will greet you and kind of give you a hug and like do like a kissy noise near your cheek. But that is increasingly uncommon. Typically in England, you go for the handshake, or maybe in COVID times, you simply wave. I wouldn't even say like hug, but like with relatives, then yes, maybe some people. This is all to say that in France, it is still relatively common to kiss, to say hello to anybody, particularly to friends or acquaintances or family. You don't like full on do like lip contact, but you do the both sides of you like go in for the hug and then you do the one side of the cheek and then you do the other. This catches a lot of Americans and English people off guard because we are not used to this. So it's awkward for me every time. But if if this happens to you, they're simply greeting you. So just like lean in, see what happens. They're a very affectionate culture in that sense, in the greeting of somebody. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed some of the differences I've noticed between France and England. If you have any differences of your own to point out or comments about the ones that I've noticed, definitely leave them down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.